Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from the bye, and we're here to talk about some Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Will Jeff Sims be playing? And also, do we need to see Fabien Lovett make his return in this game or save him for the matchup against Miami? All that and more on today's edition of Locked on Seminoles. Let's ride.
You are Locked on Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked on Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today in the stream yard, I'm joined with Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's going on, my guy?
Drake, it's a great day to have a great day.
It's a great day to have a great day, and folks, I want to thank our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked on College Network, and also today's title sponsor. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for the free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. And as always, terms and conditions may apply. Now, Dave, we're here to talk about some on a macro level, some Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. You down for that?
Oh, of course. I love talking teams we should beat.
Exactly. And this is something that, Dave, this is a team that Georgia Tech is particularly better way to put it, not very good. I don't think there's any other way to put it overall. Mainly, they did go on a 2-game winning streak after they fired Jeff Collins. Brent Key is the interim head coach over there. But then I don't know if you watched the game against, I think it was against Virginia last week. It was pretty bad. And not only that, they potentially lost Jeff Sims for a decent amount of time with the ankle injury. He's still to be determined for this coming game. I think Zach Gibson is the quarterback that actually replaced him in that game. Overall, Dave, what do you expect to see on a smaller, I guess base level from the Georgia Yellow Jackets team coming Saturday?
Well, I got to think best case scenario for us is that by some miracle Jeff Sims plays in this game. I say that because Jeff Sims, well, we were worried about. Really, we weren't worried about that team beating us. But if there was any chance Georgia Tech was going to hang in there and keep it close, it was going to be exclusively on the legs of Jeff Sims. It was we talked ad nauseum about the fact that this team has struggled over the years with running quarterbacks, and that he was just next in the line of quarterbacks that have running plus running abilities. And if he were to play in this game, and despite that injury, he would be limited with his legs for sure. So Jeff Sims beating us through the air, a one-dimensional Georgia Tech team. Yeah, I really like. I mean, I think I said like 95% chance or something that we win this game before knowing that. But knowing where Jeff Sims is at, if he has to throw the ball to beat us, that becomes an unlosable game in my opinion.
Yeah, because to me, like the big threat with Jeff Sims is his legs. The majority of their wins came last year. I remember correctly. I think he ran for almost like 180 yards against UNC last year, and that was a main reason why. Like, he's a dual threat quarterback, and he's one of those kids that basically you see that the arm talent is actually there. It's more just there's some throws you look at him saying like, why'd you throw that, Jeff? And then there's other throws where you're like, oh my god, that was a dime. That had perfect touch on it. But it was mainly what he has it with his legs. I mean, so far on the season, he has a 58% completion percentage. He has a 5 touchdown and 3 interceptions ratio, with a QBR of a passer rating of 113.9 per ESPN. So to me, this is a kid that probably since the change of head coach has been better. But when you limit one thread of his game, and that thread of his game is basically him being able to extend the play, being able to get out of the pocket, and also shift to defenses. And like you were saying about us, we have struggled immensely when it comes to mobile athletic quarterbacks. And this is one I said, I think, last week that will be the first to see if this defense can take that next step overall and actually be able to prepare for this. Because to me, this will be the easier of the three of him, Garrett Schrader, and Anthony Richardson. But I think you're right about that. Like, to me, this is if he's able to play in a limited fashion, that's actually better for us.
Yeah, just let me throw some numbers out there for everybody. Georgia Tech is bottom 10 in the country in pass blocking. That's not great. If you don't love where our pass blocking is, just understand that Georgia Tech's is appreciably worse. They're one of the worst teams in the country blocking for their quarterback. And they're among the bottom 11, just outside the bottom 10, obviously, in receiving. So the receivers there are doing Jeff Sims no help. The pass blocking is giving him no help. It's not like their traditional running game is elite. So if you put everything on the arm of an injured Jeff Sims who's limited and one dimensional, that is an absolute best case scenario for ensuring an easy win against a team that you should beat easily. It really is as simple as that. They don't have a lot going for them. Georgia Tech is equally bad in efficiency and explosiveness. Their defense is slightly above their offense in the efficiency and F plus grades. So, to all those advanced metrics, I'm trying to get away from PFF because they suck in a lot of
It's
their
okay. Hey, listen, some average. Hey, listen, some of us still enjoy PFF when it fits our narrative. There's no problem with that. Come
Yeah,
on now.
right. But no, if I mean, here's the reality. It doesn't matter where you look for stats on this Georgia Tech team. They're all going to tell you that team sucks. They don't really do anything well. The fact that their defense is rated above their offense tells you everything you need to know because that's not an excellent defense. The defense is improved, I think, from last year, but that's not saying much. It couldn't get much worse than it had been in prior years, and
Mhm.
that's just again that team's only gonna beat you by outscoring you on the arms and legs of Jeff Sims. You take those legs away, and you can't lose that game.
And then, folks, to me, I personally don't think that Jefferson's will be playing. I think we'll be seeing the backup
Right.
Zach Gibson overall. And for in his first start, I think he had last week, he was. Oh, sorry, not his first start. I apologize for that. In interim duty, he was 11-27 for a 40% completion percentage. He threw for 104 yards, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions, and if you will remember, he ran out of bounds the last play of the game on a Hail Mary. So to me, this is a team that if we were playing them after Jeff Collins was immediately fired, I'd be more concerned because you know those pick me up games. There's a new interim head coach. There's like new kind of life in a team. This is 3 games removed from that, and they've already experienced the first loss. And this is a team to me that Mike Norvell knows how to play teams off a bye. I think he's like 8-2 or something like that after a bye week, beating teams by an average of like 40 plus points. We saw with UMass last year. So to me, this is a team that we should demonstrably be able to impose our will over. And we'll have actually Bryce Kuhn from 247 Sports, the Georgia Tech kind of affiliate site, talk about the team even more.
Yeah, Georgia excuse me, Zach Gibson had an interesting little roller coaster career over at Akron. He's
Oh, I
nothing
know that. I
special.
know it was at Akron. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's nothing special. If we have to play, if he's who we have to play against, I mean, the dude's got a career completion percentage under 60%, 2,500 career yards, 15 touchdowns to 8 picks. Yeah, there's nothing that worries you about Zach Gibson being Georgia Tech's quarterback. He's not going to go out there. He's not going to be the guy that goes out there and beats you. He doesn't have any kind of running game that should scare you like Jeff Sims. So that's even that makes that game even more easy and one dimensional, in my opinion, than an injured Jeff Sims possibly. But the reality is, you could split hairs on that. It doesn't matter. It's a game you got to win at this point.
But you know who's not one dimensional, Dave?
Who's that, Drake?
It's our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs, folks. Whew, Dave's been using LinkedIn Jobs for a very, very long time. Dave, can you tell the folks what you've been using LinkedIn Jobs for?
Absolutely. If you guys don't know, I work at a law firm. I'm an attorney, and finding a paralegal is incredibly difficult. You can ask any lawyer that it's easier to find 10 good young associates than one paralegal. I have posted jobs looking for paralegals on LinkedIn. It makes it really easy to post jobs. It's free. That's always great. You do attract quality candidates that we were not able to attract on other websites. And I would highly recommend checking LinkedIn jobs and at least trying it for the free if you have a job posting you need to list.
Always for the free, because folks, these days every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, as Dave just said. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and also for the free. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free, and for the free. As always, terms and conditions may apply. Okay, Dave. Now that we've basically this started discussion of Georgia Tech, we'll discuss more about later on in the week when we have our guest on for the Know Your Foe series. Let's talk about some pieces that we're bringing back. Fabien Lovett has been at practice the past 2 weeks. He's starting to acclimate himself better. He actually was almost being able to play against Clemson, but he still wasn't a 100%. And quite honestly, I don't think he would have made that much of a difference when it comes to the score sheet overall. But this game, how much or if at all do you need to see Fabian Lovett play in this game?
Well, here's the thing. You want Fabian Lovett on the field at all times. We talked a lot early in the season and definitely before the season about how the interior defensive line of this team would probably be the best single unit on the team, among the best in the country. Wow, has it looked different with Fabian Lovett out? Malcolm Ray has really stepped up. He's really surprised me. But Robert Cooper has not been the same Robert Cooper without Fabian Lovett there. That's been extremely noticeable. So for the stretch run of the season against Syracuse, against Florida, against Miami, you're gonna really need Fabian Lovett. And that's important, what I just said, because I didn't say against Georgia Tech. I I don't know, like, you want him to get tuned up, sure, but if he's not 100% and you think another week will get him meaningfully closer to 100%, there's no reason he has to play in this game. Like I said, Georgia Tech's not a team with the kind of traditional run game that's just gonna be able to line up and pound the ball up the middle against you. That's not gonna happen, and with Jeff Sims out, that eliminates the mobility concerns from the quarterback position. So at this point, you're just talking about pinning your ears back. Yeah, Fabian Lovett can provide you a pass rush, but you should be able to get that from this defensive line you have. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, I mean, those Georgia Tech receivers are, I think, non-existent would probably be the nicest thing to say. So you don't have anybody that you should worry about burning your defensive backs as so as they've been recently. Um, and this just isn't the game where you have to push Fabo. So if he's not 100%, I don't think you need to see him in this game. If anything, give him a few reps, just to get him through the walkthrough, get him some live game action before the real part of the back half of the schedule hits. And other than that, there's no need.
Yeah, I'm about to say because I don't need to see him playing, or I think what he usually average around like 40 kind of snaps, maybe like 50, 60% of snaps played. I need to see maybe a third of that, mainly
Yeah,
because I do want to see. I think he probably does need to acclimate himself back to some kind of game speed because you kind of can practice as much as you want until the game actually starts. Even though to me, Fabo is someone I don't worry about kind of losing that motor, losing that drive, losing that kind of understanding of the
agreed.
game. To me, like I would like to get him back on the field for probably like maybe the way we did Jared Verse, I can think against Wake Forest. I think that was basically like a pitch count kind of thing. Like you hit your 15 snap, maybe even 20 snap on the higher end, kind of like if he hits that mark, then yeah, you kind of pull him out of that. So to me, overall, I don't think you need to see too much of Fabian Lovett because I think you're right. I think playing him against Miami is going to be much more important because Miami did apparently lose one of their offensive linemen for the remainder of the season
Yep.
this year. They're, I think, on their second string center overall. And that's an offensive line that most likely will also be covering a Jake Garcia. That Jake Garcia, you saw him when he didn't have an offensive line. And this is why we've been saying all year that we don't want, like, Dave does not want to push AJ Duffy into immediate starting contention because
Hmm.
he's not ready. And Jake Garcia against a Duke defense, he struggled because he basically was on his back or running for his life. So to me, overall, when you look at it, I want to see Fabian Lovett in there, but let's say let him acclimate himself slowly, but then pull him back and save him for the back half of the schedule because Georgia Tech, you should not need Fabian Lovett in a greater capacity than limited against this Georgia Tech team as it's currently constructed.
Yeah, frankly, you should be able to sit anybody who's not 100% in this game. There's just no urgency. Like if we were playing Miami this week, I think you got to push all your chips in and make sure to bury that team, especially in light of what's going on with that dumpster fire of a program right now. But that's not the case. It's not a filler game because it's a conference game, but it's become one of the easiest games on the schedule. And here's the thing: Fabian Lovett, any of everybody on this team who's played 50 snaps or more this year, he's our highest graded defender. That's not overly surprising. You could see the instant impact of Fabian Lovett being out when he was out. So it's not that we don't want to see him, and it's not that I don't think he needs to get acclimated. He absolutely does. It's just, I mean, maybe give him 10 snaps. But if you're having to push him to where you're risking an injury just by him stepping out there, This isn't the game to do that. It's that simple.
No, I mean, I also completely agree with that, and you kinda see basically this is where you think other teams, I mean, other players potentially could be on their way back. I know one of the big things that talking points right now is Trayshawn Ward gonna be available, like, kinda in the coming weeks? Because I remember he injured his, injured shoulder, like, I think, what, 3 weeks ago at this point? To me, I don't think we see him until maybe honestly, probably the Syracuse game. I think that's basically when you would kind of want to see him because Syracuse is a very poor run defense, and I kind of want that shoulder, or I forgot what is the issue, but I want that to be fully healthy. Then you have the Winston Wright situation, which at this point, I think maybe it wouldn't be shocking to me if he makes his recovery or kind of his return actually against against the Hurricanes, because that kind of will be Andrew Parchment, a transfer wide receiver from the Big 12, kind of made his impact in that game. Winston Wright can do the same damn thing. I'm a narratives guy, quote me on that one. So to me, overall, you look at it, this is a game that we like. You're right, Dave. We can rest the majority of our players because this GT team isn't very good. It really, really isn't. And this is a game that, quite frankly, you need to come out here and win this game by 30 to 40 plus points. I know the line opened up at 21.5 when it dropped on Sunday. I took us to 21.5, and I typically don't do that. You can ask Dave that. But to me, this is a GT team that, folks, if you watch that game on Thursday, I usually clown how Amazon Prime's Thursday night football games are pretty damn bad. I will be at the one this week with the Bucks and the Ravens for a bachelor party. So to me, like, it's that game was terrible. And to me, it's a GT team that they're kind of going to be limping to the finish line for the rest of the season. So to me, Fabien Lovett, pitch count, other players, pitch count, and just prep for Miami hate week, which is going to be our most fun week of the year.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to treat this like a bye week or like a Duquesne game because it's not. But
It's
you're
not.
you're
It's not. And we last time we've done that, we lose games. We can't do that. We can't.
exactly right. So that's not what I'm getting at here. Just for everybody who has a soft spot for that happening, I get it. But this we should beat Georgia Tech as badly as Georgia beats Florida this week. Which, if you're paying attention to the college football world or the gambling world, you've seen that spread. Georgia's expected to beat Florida by more than 20, and it's the same story here. Just there's too big of a talent gap, and Fabien Lovett is an incredibly important piece to this defense. I don't want that to get lost in what I'm saying. We cannot finish this season without him and look anywhere near ourselves on defense. If you're wondering why the DBs look bad, don't think that that doesn't have anything to do with it. It largely starts up front, and without Fabo, the whole defense has had a ripple effect. It's all looked a lot worse. So can't wait to have him back. Not this week.
Fabien Lovett is the heart and soul of this defense. You know who's the heart and soul of the Lockdown family, Dave?
Talk to me, Drake.
It is our friends over at Sweatblock, folks. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for that. Like, share, subscribe. But if you're listening to audio and you never see my beautiful face or my beautiful body, well, I'm a little thicker than the average person. I'm a large individual. And as Dave said, we are attorneys. So you know what attorneys wear most of the time? Suits and ties. And I work in sunny South Florida, and it is hot. So you know my ass is always sweating. And folks, Sweat Block is one of those things where that it is one of the best products actually completely out there currently. It is made by doctors for you for help with excessive sweating. It's helped with me with my problem. Dave's not that much of a sweater, but he has told me on an occasion when he does work out, Sweat Block helps him a little bit with that as well. And folks, it's one of those where it helps you block the embarrassing sweat or odor. I'm not the odor guy, but there are some of y'all out there I know that need Sweat Block for the odor. So please head on over to sweatblock.com. Use promo code locked on LOCKEDON to get 20% off your order. Once again, head on over to sweatblock.com. Use promo code locked on LOCKEDON to get 20% off promo code. If you don't go there, they are also available on Amazon. Okay, Dave, we're wrapping up today's show. This was more like, we've been off the air for a little bit. I know you've been not feeling well, so kind of we wanted to ease you back in and everything else. And also, what we say?
Sorry about that, by the way, everyone. If you see me hitting the cough button or drinking water or
Hey,
Pedialyte
hey,
here.
listen, man. You're playing her, but that's kind of why we love you, because you're still committed to the game. Someone that's not committed still to the game or to the Noles in general is actually Mr. OL Rod Kearney, a top 150 prospect out of Orange Park, Florida. That's someone that on the offensive line that I was of the opinion this decommitment was going to happen for the past, I guess, month and a half or so, maybe even 2 months, because he has been repeatedly visiting Florida. And then now you see him decommitting and then flipping over to Florida. Dave, what is your initial reaction to this offensive line commit? And do you think there's any positivity at all that we can bring out of this?
Well, I wasn't happy when I saw it. Look, I don't care who it is. I don't like when our commits flip to Florida. That's just not a good feeling. Like, I don't know. As a Yankees fan, first of all, I'm having a rough go of it, but I don't like seeing our players go to the Red Sox. Across all sports, you don't like seeing that happen. And Rod Kearney was one of our top rated commits. You've seen where our class has been ranked. It's been in like the top 20-ish range. And it's guys of that ranking that were boosting our class to where it was. Um, Again, he's a top 10, top 7 interior defensive lineman in Florida. The composite has him
Offensive
as a
lineman.
or in
Offensive
this
lineman.
offensive lineman, excuse me, in the country. The composite has him as a top 5 interior offensive lineman in the country. That's the kind of guy you want on your team. And you especially don't want them on your rivals team. Um, I didn't love having to scroll through Twitter and seeing us getting laughed at by Florida fans, especially because Billy Napier hasn't given that team an awful lot to be hopeful about. And I did have serious concerns about whether Billy Napier would be able to recruit at Florida at a particularly high level. So I don't love seeing it. It doesn't make me happy. I really, really hope there's a backup plan. Thank God it's at the one position where I totally trust the recruiting of Alex Atkins. But God, I hope there's a backup plan for that because obviously it's at a position where we've been just using like putty to fill in from the transfer portal for years now. And we got to build it back up to where we're recruiting the high school ranks such that you're having guys that don't have to play necessarily until they're redshirt sophomores or juniors and they're getting some time under their belt, not having to play here as true freshmen at 290 pounds, you know?
No, I mean, I completely agree with that. I think overall to this is the one position group I'm not considerably worried about. I think we have also some great products in the works right now. Like Lucas Simmons is still committed. He's still, I think, one of your top offensive linemen overall that you have. And then also, I do know that the staff is really pushing hard for one DJ Chester from Eagles Landing Christian in Atlanta, Georgia. Sorry, McDonough, Georgia. If that name sounds familiar, he used to be teammates with Bryce Nestes, and that's someone that basically look over to him overall. Like that is a very solid quality prospect too at all. He is number 55 from 247 Sports overall in the country. The composite has him a little bit lower, so maybe they're just not. To me, I'm going to go with 247's ranking here, and to me, he's a higher rated prospect than Roderick Kearney. Roger Kearney. Sorry about that, Roger Kearney. And to me, this is a kid that, quite frankly, is a little more. He's going. I think this kid will end up in your class. I do think this is someone that strongly will be concerning the team. And then also, Dave, you do know who's officially visiting this weekend, actually overall at the game to kind of assuage your concerns.
Does it rhyme with Bedrick Saxter?
It does rhyme with Bedrick Saxter. It is one Cedric Baxter, the former FSU commit, currently committed to Texas. This is something that's been in the works for quite some time overall. And we've discussed that we love these transfer running backs. We love Trey Benson coming in. We love Jay-Sean Corbin coming in. But we do need some more from the high school ranks. And this is someone that has kind of blown up over the past year and a half. He was originally, I think, like a top 150 kid. Now he's almost a borderline 5-star. This is a kid overall, like this team needs immensely. This is someone that has some game changing speed. And also for right now, while I'm not guaranteeing him to come from Texas, that's going to be very difficult to do because Texas is starting to recruit at a level that basically up there with Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee when it comes to the NIL contributions. But this is something that kind of shows you that FSU is starting to push their weight around because of that 4-0 start.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's exactly right. Cedric Baxter obviously was once committed here. I think he was a 5-star when he was committed here. I don't know exactly what happened to that, but we're going to have some questions about the running back room going forward once Trayshawn's gone, once Trey Benson's gone. I have high hopes for Rodney Hill in his career at Florida State, but you need to stockpile talent at that position. We're in a state where we should be able to do that. Obviously, we've been able to do that historically. And that's the kind of kid you want in your class. And Texas is they're on the rebound right now. They're still having some issues. Like for those that aren't following the saga, there's rumors that Arch Manning has reached out unilaterally to UGA. And if they were to lose Arch Manning from that class, I'm not saying the whole class would fall apart, but I gotta think that would open the eyes of some of the other kids committed there. And if one of those happens to be Cedric Baxter, and we can be the beneficiary of Texas not being 8-0 right now, then excellent. Because I would love to have Cedric Baxter back in this class. Right now, I don't think we have that level of talent at the running back position really on the radar, right? Like there's nobody that would replace a Cedric Baxter type level of talent in this class. So yeah, of course I want him back in this class. And I think that would really solidify the running back room for the next 4 years,
I think
3
it
years.
really would, and I think because also I'm not 100% sure that the current running back room in its entirety actually will be coming back next season because we saw with the first year under Mike Norvell, there was, remember, a former running back by the name of LaDamian Webb, who actually probably, in my personal opinion, performed better than Jayshon Corbin and the rest of the backs. And then strangely enough, he dipped out for different reasons, but overall, to me, these kids also do want to tote the rock a certain amount of times. And if there's some people out there only getting maybe 6 or 7 carries and averaging almost 10 yards a carry, then you start to question your kind of place in the running back room, and you have enough tape to kind of show off, like, hey, maybe somewhere else, if I start and get 15 to 20 carries a game, I can showcase my talents elsewhere. But I think you're right about that. I did not know about the Arch Man type of thing. And to me, if he flips to UGA, that would be actually huge for us because UGA, I know, is pushing for our 2024 QB commit, Luke Kromenhoek, who is a stud. And that's something
Mhm.
that basically I would love to see happen because I don't want to lose that kid. That to me reminds me of basically when we were trying to go for Justin Fields back a few years ago. I'm not saying they're the same talent level, but that's the quality of player I see in Kromenhoek.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for some of those out there who still follow former players. Like Kalon Laybourne is just absolutely lighting it up at Marshall. That probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody. That kid was super talented. It's unfortunate that sometimes kids just need a change of scenery to really blossom. Like you saw what happened to Landon Dickerson turn into Blastoise the second he got to Alabama. Yeah, it's just the running back room has been good because Trayshawn Ward has emerged as a phoenix from not from the ashes, but he has just exceeded the wildest expectations for him. And Trey Benson obviously has been a good one too with that, and Lawrence Toafili has been a good change of pace back for the both of them. But yeah, just questions. We have to think about the future too. And the stockpile of talent has to improve for this team to reach its potential in the future. And the running back position right now, there's not a ton in the cupboard in terms of when Trayshawn and Trey Benson leave. That we have to be pulling in kids like this, whether or not specifically it's Cedric Baxter. It's got to be somebody who's of a talent level like that because that's what we've been doing that's gotten us these Cam Akers and Dalvin Cooks, and it there's a long lineage of this here at Florida State. Um, as long as the offensive line recruiting stays like it is, and they know they have guys blocking for them, and as long as they know they have somebody good throwing to them, like AJ Duffy or like you said, Luke Romanhawk, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to attract top level running back talent here.
No, I completely agree with that. And that's why I would love to pair Cedric Baxter with one Samuel Singleton, the kid that we have currently committed from Fleming Island. That kid's just a different kind of fast. If you just
Yeah.
watch his tape, that kid knows how to run. That kid does new really nice cuts, and I can't wait to see David Johnson kind of help him hone his craft. But folks, thank you guys so much for joining us to help us hone our craft each and every single day by making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every single day. Now, Dave, I know you're not feeling well, but are you up to giving everyone the YouTube instructions and also telling them how much you love them and how much you miss them?
I do love you and I do miss you, and I regret that I've been sick. I'm very sorry about that. But I'm back, you're back, and I would love it if you would hit the like button on this video. I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel and ding the little bell to turn on your notifications. And I would love it if you left us some comments, give us some feedback about the episode, tell us what you agree with, what you disagree with. And obviously, you can find this podcast anywhere you find your podcast: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play, and all those other platforms.
And for Dave, this was Drake, and we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.
Speed Georgia Tech.
Beat GT.